Hello, everyone. Welcome back or welcome to the Tower Yoga Podcast. My name's Kellee, and I'm happy to be here. It's been a hot minute since I've sat down and recorded a podcast episode. The last episode was with our dear friend of the studio, Christian Pena, and he is our guide over in Peru, and he'll be there with us in June for the retreat. All right. This month, I really want to start something new. So, you know how at the beginning of classes, when you come to Tower Yoga, a lot of other, yoga places too, I'm sure. There's a lot of teachers who start class with something called a Dharma talk. And it's just the offering. It's a theme for class, right? It's something that the community, everyone there can all share in, make it personal, of course, but it's a collective thing. Of course, the internal process of cultivating that is something different. It's called, I believe, bhavana in Sanskrit, and it translates to that, something like that, like to cultivate, or it's some kind of like inner development of a teaching or experience. And so I was thinking it'd be really cool to do that here on the podcast at the start of each month and have a theme for the month. And I think I'll also probably follow that in my yoga classes. I'm going to invite the other teachers to do it. It's totally just like in class. You can really jump on board with the intention that the teacher's throwing out there. Or maybe you have your own thing going and you're going to hold that into your heart. That's cool too. But I just thought, I like to try things and let's try it. Yeah, as I said, each month we'll be cultivating a theme together, something that can infuse our own lives, our classes, something that we can contemplate, and not just on the mat, of course, but also in actual life too. For March, our theme is Lila. Leela means divine play. In yogic philosophy, Leela is the idea that the entire universe is a form of divine play. Creation itself, in this perspective, isn't necessarily looked at as a burden or a problem to be solved. It's an expression, a dance, a spontaneous unfolding. The image that most clearly represents this is Shiva as Nataraja, the cosmic dancer. And you can think of that image, you've probably seen it, where Shiva is on one foot and he has one arm extended to kind of like steady and the other arm out, like really expansive. And it's representing creation and destruction happening in rhythm, like simultaneous. It's really powerful. It's very precise and it's still play. And that's really important because most of us don't experience life as play. And that's, for a lot of good reason. We experience it as pressure. Somewhere along the way, we forget how to play. Some of us maybe started out life not really getting the opportunity to ever even really establish what that means in the first place, So we do live in a performance-based culture. We do need to strive, and striving isn't necessarily a bad thing. But of course, when that's out of balance, it's something that towards the end of the day and maybe even the end of the life that we realize, oh, whoa, like there really was only so much time, and where was I just being and experiencing, it's like we're optimizing and maximizing and all these things. Even in yoga, we can turn the practice into something to accomplish, something to just check off the list instead of something to experience, something that we can say we did, but not really have that imprint in the body that it happened because we weren't like present, I'm thinking of the springtime, and in March, of course, this month is the spring equinox. And I think how spring doesn't, it does put on a show, it seems like, but it's really a playful showing, isn't it? The buds don't like strain to open, they respond. The light returns, the earth tilts, and something relents, something softens. Leela reminds us that life is not only serious spiritual work, it's also movement and curiosity, experimentation, it's color. You could absolutely think of the dancer pose, Natarajasana, as a way to embody somatically this idea of divine play. But Leela doesn't only live in that standing balancing posture. Divine play can show up in like wiggling your fingers in down dog, or even like shaking your ass, taking a variation just because you're curious, that's offered. Maybe you've done uh, the same side angle every time it's taught, and there's been a couple different variations the teachers offered, but you thought, oh, I either don't need to do that one, or I don't, want to do that one. I like this way I do it. Maybe you just, let yourself be playful and be curious. If you fall out of tree pose, laugh instead of, freak out or whatever. If that's what you do in the first place, I hope you laugh. Closing your eyes and feeling what happens instead of checking, that you're in this perfect alignment every moment in the mirror. I really like the mirror, especially as a teacher. It's a tool, and I tend to practice with my eyes closed a lot, just in practice, not necessarily teaching, unless I'm trying to remember something or I'm thinking of something very deeply. But, it is also cool to be able to check out, is my arm really where I think it is, that kind of thing. But other than that, closing the eyes, there's this like deep universe that happens when you can do that. And that is also a way that you can sort of imbue play into your physical asana practice. Play is not carelessness. Play is presence without heaviness. It's the willingness to explore without making the exploration mean something about you, to try to figure every little thing out that you encounter. It's inviting lightness into areas that might really need it within you. Even in a strong pose like any warrior posture, there can be play, even in the breath. In child's pose, there can be curiosity and sensation. You can wiggle your hips. Leela asks, what if you weren't here to perfect this moment? What if you were here to simply experience it? Of course, the shadow side, I want to, of course, name that. For many of us, play doesn't come easily. Responsibility is real. Grief is real. Stress is real. Life freaking happens. Leela is not spiritual bypassing. It's not a toxic positivity. It's not pretending everything is light all the time and just easy. It's remembering that underneath even the intensity of life, though, that there is movement. Even the present moment isn't fixed in time. It's not still, it's moving. So the hardest seasons, I think especially, it can be helpful. It can behoove us to remember that something is still unfolding. Spring follows winter, whether we earned it or not. Play isn't the absence of depth. It's depth that isn't rigid. So if we think about divine play off the mat, like how does that show up beyond the asana practice? Could look like trying something new without expecting yourself to be good at it. Letting yourself change your mind, even if you've invested, time or energy or money into something, if it's, not right, letting yourself not make it such a intense, heavy thing that you're bound to, if you're able to find a way to be creative and wriggle your way out, speaking honestly instead of strategically, and allowing joy without needing to justify it. That one's can be a really hard one for me. Maybe it means noticing where you've been over gripping in your body, your relationships, your expectations, and asking really gently, can I soften? Can this soften? Not because whatever it is that you're gripping doesn't matter, but because it matters enough to approach with breath and curiosity instead of force, just brute force. I think about when the shutdown happened during the pandemic and the studio had to close down. And eventually, when we could do some outdoor classes, we were on the patio in front of the mandala here on Wushan and trying to teach those classes and figure out how to be outside in space with the dump truck and the guy telling his dog to go poop and someone smoking, like a huge blunt and I'm telling people to take a deep breath in and it's like the weed smoke's blowing through and I'm just like, oh my gosh, because we're, backed up against people's yards and they're doing what they're going to do in their yards. We can't control what they're doing. We're just trying to do some yoga on the patio and there's all this kind of stuff going on. So just like painting the picture is it's like, I remember that like all in one day, all of like that happening and wanting to just be like, why am I even trying? Like, we can't even like seriously practice. And like, this is crazy. And just being so serious about it. And then like, I think I started laughing after the dog situation where the guy was like, go poop to his dog in his backyard and we could hear it. I was like, okay. I like tried to stay serious, right? And then like the dump truck happened and we all like looked around and I was like still trying to stay serious. And then at the exact moment when I was like, all right, take a deep breath in. And then like that, whatever was wafting, whatever, from the person's backyard, that just herbal waft of whatever it was, I just started laughing so hard. It just like overtook me and it just felt like so infectious. Like everyone else started laughing. I think like realizing in that moment, I'm going to have to let this be way more playful than I'm trying to make it. I happen to be a person who is a little bit more on the bubbly side. Like, sorry, don't hate me. I am kind of that like annoying bubbly person, and that can be like loud and cackle in class and like all those kinds of things. But I think at like that time in the world and in life, it's just everything was so serious and it is so serious. I don't want to say that like life isn't serious. This is another like component of it though. This conversation on Leela on Divine Play is that whatever it was that happened and that like giggling that went through and then I like realized like I need to just like lighten up and remember that there's like divinity in all of this. Like I choose to believe that, right? And all of a sudden I felt like that pressure like lifted and we could all just drop in. And so I was coming each time not with this expectation of everything to like fall in place so we could have this quiet practice. Is like we're just here in the neighborhood when the world's sort of falling apart and it's very imperfect, but we're practicing. And that intention of keeping it playful definitely transmitted, if you will, to everyone who would come and take the class and end up being just like in a world that is really heavy, being like a pocket of time and space where we could all as a community come together and have a moment of levity. And that was really helpful to get through those times. And I think we need that maybe even more now, or we still need it, I should say, during the times we find ourselves in here. Yeah. So returning to the dancer, when we look again at the cosmic dancer, the image of Shiva, we see something really profound. One foot grounds into earth and the other lifts into infinite possibility. Play requires grounding. It's not chaos, it is rhythm. It's part of rhythm. And so maybe that is what March is for us if we're taking a cue from nature. Rooted enough to feel safe, like knowing what it is that we're centered on and in our life, and then open enough to experiment from there, to stay open. So I want to offer out some reflection questions to leave you with that you can journal over the course of the coming days or month. And you're more than welcome to share this in comments, or you can email us at hello@toweryofresno.com, or you can message us on Instagram. I'd just love to know. But of course, I don't have to know. They're for you. Where in my life have I become overly serious? And you can even pause that if you need to write that down and then come back to the next question. What would it feel like to approach that area with just 5% more curiosity mindset? When was the last time I did something simply because it delighted me? It lit me up on my mat. Can I explore without evaluating, without putting value or not on things? So you don't need to answer these questions all at once. right now. Even you don't need to answer them perfectly. Really let the questions be, as I like to say about journal prompts, doorways, if you will. Just let them work on you. Yeah. So this month, as we move toward the spring equinox, notice what's naturally blooming in you. Not what you think should bloom, but what's already stirring, what's been there. Let your practice be a little less performance based if that is a trap you find yourself falling into, a little more participation, if you will, a little more play. This is Leela. This is divine play. And we get to dance it. All right. Thank you so very much for sharing your time and your attention and this intention with me. I hope it resonates. Let us know what you think. And I do want to also have a playlist associated with each month as well, which I'll try to get together and put in the show notes. If they're not there, then message us and we'll get it to you, or ask me if you see me in person. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time. Bye-bye.